What does being an indie game developer mean to you? Does it mean wealth, innovation, creativity, control, or perhaps freedom? As professionals in the industry, we typically work on games or projects that we have no control over, a say in the direction the game is going, or important decisions that are being made. So for the good or for the bad, we're usually little more than willing participants in the game or project's success or failure due to these decisions. However, as indie game developers, you have full control over your destiny. Each day, you have the unique opportunity to create something innovative and truly inspiring. You're free to challenge yourself by creating awe-inspiring graphics or pushing the limit of a platform's capability. You can create game mechanics that can truly redefine the gaming landscape as we know it. And you wake up each day knowing this can be the turning point, not just for you or your team, but maybe even the game industry as a whole.
Production, graphics. With everyone agreeing on the direction and vision of the game and its mechanics, we began work on the art assets. However, before we began creating the art, since we didn't have a dedicated concept artist on our team, we first began collecting references to use as a style guide for the look and feel of our game. With our initial reference gathered, as well as the game style and look of the game decided on, we began creating the 2D and 3D art assets, as well as prototyping the game mechanics. In our spare time, we also began writing the lore for the game world and its characters. Though seemingly an unnecessary process, we find by visualizing and creating lore for each game, it allows us to better create consistent ideas, characters, environments, and other art assets for a given project. When coming up with ideas or finding reference material, we always ask ourselves, as cool as this looks, or as fun as that may be to create, how would this fit within the defined game world or lore? It also helps if we're creating character dialogue or story elements for our games. Meanwhile, we were also creating the first set of characters and environments. Originally, and as the name implies, each aspect of the game was supposed to look as if it was created out of paper, and the game was going to have a more lighthearted feel. However, it quickly became apparent if we wanted to stick with our original 2 to 3 month development goal, nailing both the look and feel we originally set out for was going to require a far longer development timeline or a larger team. So after a long discussion, we decided to abandon the paper concept and just incorporate it later if we found a quick and easy solution to make it work. During which time, we were also testing gameplay mechanics. When it came to character control in particular, we tried a few things, such as an on-screen joystick, swipes, using multiple fingers, and several other more unorthodox character movement control methods. As a JRPG, the fighting portions were simply one of the many gameplay aspects of the game. However, as development progressed and through internal testing, we soon realized that the fighting encounters were the most enjoyable aspect of the game. At this point, we were well into a month of our planned 2 to 3 month development time, so instead of continuing to split our focus on each gameplay element, we made the hard decision of scrapping the other gameplay aspects and simply reworking the game into a mobile fighter. Additionally, we decided to rework the permadeath into a cooldown or healing mechanic, much like that found in the Injustice mobile games. We also opened the game up, allowing the player to choose and play through multiple clans or factions, with the caveat of the skills and the resources the player gains for that faction will permanently increase the faction's strength and resources even when the player is currently using an opposing faction. With our new focus, we were now able to simply focus on making the fighting aspect as enjoyable as possible. At this point, despite the fact we had several characters and environments modeled, we decided we should focus on completing only a couple characters and one environment to better gauge how long it would take to complete the rest of the tasks we had lined up. Since this project was created several years ago and Substance Painter was in its infancy, originally, to create the hand-painted textures, we used ZBrush's polypaint tools. We quickly found that hand-painting each texture in this fashion was actually taking longer than the character modeling process. Additionally, Unity's default or unlit material wasn't giving us the look we initially envisioned. So we created a custom shader using Shader Forge in order to get the stylized anime cel-shaded look we were going for. With our material and shader problem solved, another issue quickly arose in the middle of development. Originally, our plan was to simply buy the majority of our animations. Since our characters had a standard humanoid rig, by using Mechanim, we could easily and seamlessly blend animations together despite their source. However, due to the characters' small proportions and large heads, many animations wouldn't work, with the main cause due to the fact that their hands would simply go through their oversized heads at some point. We were faced with the realization that we may be forced to present a game that was not only a different genre than what was initially pitched, but also had a completely different look and style as well. And to make matters worse, we were well into production of many of the 3D art assets of the game. So essentially, we were past the point of no return. That said, we were eventually able to find and purchase some animations that worked for the most part. And for those that didn't, we had to simply remove the keyframes for the parts that didn't work and reanimate the bones. For a now pure fighting game with a planned minimum 3 characters each faction, we knew long-term this solution was no permanent fix. However, at the time, our focus had to remain on simply hitting our deadline for the investor meeting. Because if that went well, we could always just hire an animator to create custom animations for the characters.
In the next episode, tensions rise as the deadline for the project's investors' pitch quickly approaches. And with the original game style of a mobile JRPG being reworked to a mobile fighter, we'll need to rework several key elements of the game in order to suit the game's new direction. But will we have enough time?
Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be the first to see this and many other tutorials, game development tips, interviews, and free game asset giveaways.